The knock at the door came like a thunderclap. Heavy. Entitled. Too sure of itself. I wasn't expecting anyone. Not on a Sunday morning. And definitely not him. When I opened the door, the first thing I saw was his smirk. Smug. Greasy. Like he'd already won something I didn't know I was losing. He had his arm around her. My wife. Well, ex-wife, technically. She was in a red dress like she'd dressed up to humiliate me. Lipstick too bright. Hair curled too perfect. Her nails were freshly done, blood red. That color always meant she was ready for war. Hey man, he said, like we were buddies. We're here for our rightful share of your father's estate. I stared at them, silent. He pointed behind me, like he had the right to step inside. Move out. Immediately. My jaw clenched. I didn't even blink. And then, perfect timing, I heard the click of the front gate. My lawyer, Greg, walked in like a storm in a suit. No expression. No emotion. Just purpose. He stood beside me and looked the new husband up and down. Rightful share? Greg asked, his voice like steel wrapped in velvet. You married her last month. She divorced my client while his father was in a coma. That makes her inheritance claim exactly 0. Her face twitched. The smirk faded. Greg stepped forward. You're trespassing. And if you don't leave this property in 30 seconds, we'll consider this an attempted extortion. I'd love to argue it in front of a judge. The guy's smirk slid right off his face. He looked at her, but she didn't meet his eyes. She was frozen, like the game had suddenly shifted and she didn't have the playbook. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not loud. Not mean. Just a short breath of disbelief. The kind you let out when you've seen the devil show up in a clown suit. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Then he grabbed her arm. Let's go. She didn't move. She turned to me instead, like she still had something left to say. Like she was expecting me to crumble, beg, cry, maybe even fight. Jason, she started, voice soft like fake velvet. I stepped back and shut the door. Deadbolt clicked. Silence. I leaned against the wall and exhaled. That was the first time I saw them together. Married, bold, standing on the ashes of my father's legacy, expecting to walk off with what generations of my family built. Like I was just supposed to hand it all over. But if she thought that was the beginning of the end, she had no idea what was coming. Because that morning wasn't just the day she came back to steal. It was the day I decided to burn every lie she ever told me to the ground. And trust me, there were a lot of them. I should have seen it sooner. The signs weren't subtle, not when I really thought about it. Olivia had started spending nights out with the girls, except none of the girls ever posted anything. I checked. Yeah, I became that guy. I scrolled through every story, every feed, every damn tagged photo. Nothing. Like she disappeared off the grid every Friday at 7 p.m. and reappeared Sunday morning with the same excuse. We got spa treatments and did a digital detox. But Olivia hated spas. The real break came one Tuesday afternoon. I was grabbing a hoodie from the back seat of her car. Hers had coffee spilled on it, so she threw me the keys. I opened the door, reached in, and the receipt fell right at my feet. A hotel. Downtown. 2 nights. Suite. Champagne package. The date was from the exact weekend she said she was visiting her cousin in Seattle. I picked it up like it was radioactive. I didn't say anything that day. Not yet. I wanted to be sure. And deep down, I wanted to see how far she'd go. So I played dumb. Asked how her cousin was doing. She lied straight to my face. Said they got matching tattoos. She even showed me a little moon on her hip that looked fresh, like it hurt to walk. She made a whole damn story out of it. Showed me pictures of her and her cousin from last year. Swore they were from this weekend. But I'd seen the outfit before. She wore it to a New Year's party 2 years ago. I remember because it was the night she made out with me under the fireworks like we were in a movie. I didn't confront her that day. I needed more. Needed to corner her with evidence so clear, even her silver tongue couldn't talk its way out. So I waited. And the universe delivered. The next Friday night, she said she was going to a book club. Book club. Olivia hadn't read anything longer than an Instagram caption in years. Still, I smiled and kissed her goodbye. She smiled back, all gloss and perfume, then sped off in her silver BMW. I followed her. Not proud of it. Not ashamed either. She didn't go far. 15 minutes across town to a hotel. Not a seedy one. The kind with valet and scented towels in the lobby. She stepped out, fixed her dress in the mirror, and walked inside like she owned the place. A man was already waiting. Younger. Fit, bald, cocky, like the type of guy who thinks women are trophies and loyalty is a myth. They hugged. Not like friends. Not like coworkers. She kissed him. I sat in my car gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. My heart was racing, but everything else inside me went quiet, like a light switch got flipped. There was no more guessing. No more trying to believe her lies. This was it. I waited for an hour, then walked in. The front desk clerk barely looked at me as I told him I was meeting my wife. I gave her name, smiled like I belonged. He pointed me to the elevator and floor number. Room 1507. I walked to the door. My hands weren't shaking. That surprised me. I didn't knock. The keycard door clicked open. Guess she hadn't latched it. They were mid-clothes. Not fully into it yet. Just laughing, half undressed, him sitting on the bed with his shirt off, her dress unzipped halfway, heels still on. The look on her face when she saw me, it wasn't guilt. It was annoyance. Like I was interrupting her manicure. "Jason," she said, arms crossing, trying to cover nothing. "What the F*** are you doing here?" The guy just stood up, like he thought I was about to cry or punch someone. I didn't either. I looked at her, then at him, then back. "Don't worry," I said. "I'm not here to stop you. I'm just here to remember." And then I left. Didn't scream. Didn't yell. Just burned her face into my memory. Mascara smug, lipstick smudged, lies pouring out of her eyes like they had since the day we said, "I do." I went home that night and started packing. But not just my bags. I packed the whole game plan. Everything she didn't see coming. Because the next time she'd knock on my door, it wouldn't be with a lie or a half-baked excuse. It would be with her new husband. And he'd think he could steal what my father left me. But I wasn't just my father's son. I was my father's revenge. The night I left that hotel, something inside me clicked shut. Like a door that was always open, creaking with doubt, finally slammed and locked for good. I didn't cry. I didn't drink. I didn't scream into the void like some heartbroken fool. I went home, made a black coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. Step 1, freeze the accounts she had access to. I called the bank, pretended I was worried about fraudulent activity. I was. Just not the kind they suspected. Step 2, call Greg, my lawyer. Greg wasn't just any lawyer. He was a bloodhound in a three-piece suit with a hatred for liars and a particular talent for digging into the dark corners people try to hide. He answered on the second ring. "Jason, I need to destroy someone," I said. There was a pause. Then her. I didn't need to answer. By the next morning, Greg had full access to everything I had. Marriage documents, property records, phone bills, joint accounts, even the prenup she never wanted to sign, but I'd insisted on because my father told me. Don't ever walk into a storm without an umbrella. She thought she'd married a fool. But I was raised by a man who'd survived wars, markets, betrayals, and 4 siblings who tried to take him down for a farm in Tennessee. My father taught me how to lose quietly while you plan how to win loud. Olivia didn't know that version of me. She would. 3 days after the hotel, I served her divorce papers at her office. She was an executive assistant at a real estate firm, more concerned with appearances than ambition. Greg had them delivered by a court officer during lunch. In front of her colleagues. In front of her lover. I'd done my homework. Turned out he worked in the same building, 3 floors up. She texted me later that day. "Olivia, wow. That was low, Jason. Real low." I didn't respond. "Olivia, can't we at least talk like adults? I know you're hurt, but we can handle this better." Better? Better than what? Than catching her halfway out of her dress with some shaved head gigolo in a hotel we probably financed together? She came by that evening. I didn't answer the door. Watched her through the peephole. She stood there, arms crossed, eyes darting like someone waiting for backup. When none came, she left. Then silence. 3 weeks passed. The divorce was rolling forward. Greg was already working to ensure she wouldn't get a damn cent. The prenup, the evidence, the lies, it was all airtight. Even if she cried in court, even if she brought a priest, a rescue puppy, and the ghost of her grandmother, it wouldn't matter. She played dirty. I came prepared. And then, out of nowhere, came that knock. I opened the door expecting a delivery. Instead, it was him. Her new husband. She married him 2 weeks after our divorce was filed. Vegas. No guests. No announcements. Just a quick photo online that Greg found within hours, captioned "New Beginnings" with a champagne emoji. He stood there on my porch in a fake designer suit. a smug face full of borrowed confidence. Behind him stood Olivia, in sunglasses like she was shielding herself from the truth. "We're here," he said, "for our rightful share of your father's estate." I didn't move. He tilted his chin up like he rehearsed it in front of a mirror. "Move out." Immediately, the silence between us was a vacuum. Then, just like before, Greg stepped forward from behind the door, folding a thick stack of papers. "Oh, I've been waiting for this moment," he said calmly. The guy blinked. Confused. Greg didn't blink. He walked right past me, stood shoulder to shoulder with the guy, and said in a voice that could cut glass, "You married her after the will was read, after the estate was locked, after the assets were listed. You're entitled to exactly nothing." The guy opened his mouth to protest, but Greg kept going. "And as for Olivia, she forfeited her claim the moment she signed the prenup. This property is protected. This estate is sealed. You can go cry to someone who cares." He reached into his coat and handed them both a letter. "Consider this formal notice to stay the hell off this property." The guy tried to speak again, but Olivia stepped in. Her voice was sharper this time, panicked, cracking beneath the lipstick. "Jason, we're still family. We were married for 8 years. "Exactly," I said. "We were." And I shut the door. This time for good. I sat down on the leather chair in my father's old study, the one he called his war room. It still smelled like his cigars, aged oak, paper, and a hint of revenge. I leaned back, closed my eyes, and let the silence settle in. For the first time in months, maybe years, I wasn't carrying the weight of lies on my back. Olivia was gone. Her pathetic excuse of a husband had been turned away like a thief trying to rob a vault with a toothpick. But what hit me harder than their betrayal was how little I missed her. You'd think after 8 years together, after building a life and surviving holidays with her psychotic mother, I'd feel something more than this dull, clean emptiness. But I didn't. And that realization? That was the sharpest cut of all. I started seeing the truth in flashes, like broken memories with a new filter. That Christmas 2 years ago when she said she had a migraine and spent the night at her sister's? Now I wondered if it was his hotel room she was wrapped up in. That time I came home early from a business trip and found her rushing to close her laptop with panic in her eyes. She said it was a surprise gift, probably a surprise photo dump. And then there were the mornings she'd get in the shower at 5:30 a.m. and come back smelling like a different brand of soap than we had in the house. I used to think I was paranoid. Turns out, I was just too trusting. She was always good at acting. Always. She could cry in 10 seconds flat if it got her out of an argument. She had this routine: lower her voice, soften her tone, tilt her head just a bit, like a villain auditioning for the role of the perfect wife. She played it well, and I played the fool. But not anymore. That night, I poured myself a whiskey. Just one. Sat by the fireplace. And as the flames cracked and danced, I opened the folder Greg left behind. Inside were photos, screenshots, documents, everything we needed to keep them out of my father's estate permanently. Emails Olivia sent to her new boy toy while we were still married, planning to sell the house, split the profits, invest in some idiotic startup. They thought they were smart. Thought I was some broken man clinging to his daddy's house. They didn't know the trust my father set up had clauses. Deep ones, hidden ones. Ones that made it impossible for anyone not in his bloodline to touch even the doorknobs without legal fire raining down on them. She never even read the documents she signed. Too busy plotting her next little getaway. 2 days later, I got a letter, hand-delivered, from her. I opened it with gloves on, not literal, but emotional ones. I already knew it would be poison dipped in perfume. "Jason, I don't know why you're doing this. I never wanted things to end badly. I loved you once. Maybe part of me still does. But I need you to understand, love changes. People change. You shut me out for years. You and your father both. I felt invisible. Forgotten. I didn't plan to fall in love with someone else. It just happened. Can't we end this civilly? You don't have to be cruel. Olivia." I laughed when I read that last part. Cruel? No, sweetheart. I've just started being fair. She thought she could rewrite history, twist it so I'd feel sorry for her, soften, maybe offer a settlement out of guilt. But I didn't feel guilt. I felt something else. Power. For the first time in years, I was the man my father raised. The man who could build, destroy, and rebuild without blinking. And if she thought the door slamming was the end, she was wrong. It was just the intermission. Because while she was busy decorating her fake life with borrowed love and rented ambition, I was building something permanent, something that would leave her name buried in footnotes and court records. Greg was already drafting the next move. A counterclaim, emotional fraud, reimbursement of shared assets spent on her affairs. We had timelines, receipts, digital trails. Her pretty little wedding in Vegas? She used our joint credit card for the flights. She was going to pay every damn cent. The court date was set for the following month. Greg wanted to push it sooner, but I told him no. Let them sweat. Let them enjoy their fake honeymoon with a dark cloud forming just above their heads, silent and patient, waiting to pour. In the meantime, I got quiet. Disappeared from socials, stopped responding to mutual friends. I knew some of them were still talking to her. I wanted them to guess what I was doing. Let the mystery hang over her head like a noose she couldn't see but could feel tightening. She posted a picture a week later, her and him at some overpriced steakhouse, holding champagne, grinning like high schoolers who got away with cheating on a test. The caption said, "Sometimes you have to lose everything to find real happiness." I screenshot it and sent it to Greg. His reply, "Perfect. Thanks." I didn't ask what for. I trusted him. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for, a visit from one of Olivia's old friends. Sabrina. Petite, sharp-tongued, always liked me more than she ever liked Olivia. She knocked on my door with sunglasses on and no makeup, the universal woman sign for I'm done pretending. "You got a minute?" she asked. I nodded and let her in. We sat at the kitchen table. She didn't want coffee, just got straight to it. "I thought you should know. Olivia's not done." I raised an eyebrow. "She's bragging. To everyone. Says she's gonna break you down in court. She thinks you'll panic. Or pay her to keep things private." I smiled. She always did overestimate her value. Sabrina smirked. "She's also been saying some crap about your dad. Trying to paint him as abusive, manipulative, controlling. Says the house should have been hers all along." I felt the heat rise behind my eyes, not from shock, from rage. She didn't just cheat. She was rewriting the whole damn story. Smearing a man who was gone, who treated her like family, who trusted her. That was the final straw. I thanked Sabrina and walked her out. She stopped at the door. "I hope you bury her," she said quietly. I would. And now I had all the fuel I needed. The next morning, I met with Greg in person. His office smelled like ambition. Expensive leather chairs, fresh coffee, and a faint trace of victory. "We're going to file for damages," he said, flipping open a folder. "Emotional manipulation, financial fraud, misuse of joint funds. And if she brings her new husband into it again, we'll drag him too. Make them co-defendants." I stared at the papers, at the receipts, the hotel bookings, the texts we pulled from her synced iCloud backup. She never turned it off. Messages like, "He's so clueless, babe. I think I could convince him to sell the house soon. And just a few more weeks. Once we have the estate, we're gone." She wasn't just a liar. She was a damn parasite. "I want everything exposed," I said. "Every lie, every dollar, every minute she stole from my life." Greg nodded. And then, the unexpected happened. I got a call from her. Not a text. A call. I let it ring. Voicemail picked up. Her voice was sweet. Practiced. "Hey, Jace. I know this is messy. I just want to talk. Not as enemies. As two people who meant something to each other. Maybe we can find a way to end this without hurting everyone involved." I replayed the message 5 times. And on the 6th, I laughed so hard it hurt my ribs. She wanted mercy now? After bleeding me dry? Cheating, lying, stealing from my father's legacy, and dragging my name through the dirt? I saved the voicemail. Sent it to Greg. He said, "If she calls again, pick up. Let her talk. We'll record everything. Let her bury herself." So I waited. And just like clockwork, 2 days later, she called again. I answered this time. "Jason," she said, surprised I picked up. "Thank God. I've been thinking a lot. I miss who we were. I think we got lost somewhere. And I made mistakes, yes. But so did you." I didn't say a word. "Can we meet?" she asked. "Somewhere quiet. No lawyers. Just us. Talk like we used to. Remember who we are." I looked at the voice recorder app running in the background. Then I spoke. "Sure," I said calmly. "Let's talk." We met at a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town, the kind with faded booths and a jukebox that never worked. I got there 10 minutes early, sat facing the door. I didn't want to be surprised. I didn't want to see her before I was ready. She walked in like nothing had happened. like she hadn't blown our life to pieces and tried to sweep the ashes into her purse. Tight jeans, silk blouse, sunglasses on her head like some lifestyle blogger. She gave me a soft smile, the same one she used when she used to ask me to take out the trash after lying to my face. "Hey," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. I nodded. The waitress came, took our orders, coffee for me, chai latte for her, and left. Olivia waited for a moment like she was building tension for a script no one else was acting in. "So," she started, "I've been doing a lot of thinking." I didn't respond, just let her hang in the silence. "I know I hurt you," she continued, "and I won't pretend I didn't mess up. But you weren't always easy, Jason. You shut down after your dad passed. You stopped seeing me. We were more like roommates then. You cheated," I said flatly, "repeatedly, while planning to rob me. Let's not sugarcoat." She winced. "It wasn't like that." "Then tell me how it was." She paused, looked out the window like the answer might be written on a parked car. "I needed something," she said finally. "I felt so alone. You were grieving. I was grieving too, but you didn't notice. You buried yourself in legal documents and whiskey. You weren't there. And then Tyler. Oh, so now the name had a face. Tyler. Mr. Move Out immediately. He made me feel wanted again," she whispered, leaning forward like we were sharing a secret. "And yes, we fell in love. But it wasn't about money at first. That came later." I watched her carefully. "And now?" I asked. She blinked. "Now what? Now that the money isn't coming. Now that the estate is locked. Now that Greg is preparing a court case that will destroy both of you. What do you want?" She shifted uncomfortably. "I don't want to go to war with you," she said. "I want to settle. Quietly. I'll sign whatever you want. Just don't drag me through this. Please." There it was. The mask slipped, just for a second. The desperation in her voice like a crack in a mirror she was trying to pretend wasn't there. "You married him, Olivia," I said. "You brought him to my door. You tried to erase my father's name from the will like he was some stepping stone in your glow-up journey. Now you want mercy." She didn't answer. "You used to lie so smoothly." I continued, leaning in just slightly. "But you've gotten sloppy. Or maybe I finally stopped being blind. Either way, it ends in court." She looked like she was about to cry. I almost admired the performance. "Jason," she whispered, her eyes glistening, "I still care about you." I let that sit for a beat, then said, "I recorded this conversation, and I'll do the same in court when you try to pretend you're the victim." She froze, eyes wide. "W what?" I said, "I recorded this. Because you're a professional manipulator, Olivia. But you're not as clever as you think." She stood up so fast her drink spilled. "You bastard," she hissed. I took a sip of my coffee. "You don't get to burn the house down and then act surprised when someone builds a firebreak." She stormed out. The entire coffee shop went quiet for a second before the noise resumed like nothing had happened. But something had. Everything had. Outside the window, I saw her walking to her car, dialing her phone. Probably Tyler. Probably plotting. But it didn't matter. Let them scheme. Let them panic. Because I wasn't just cleaning up the mess anymore. I was preparing to bury it. The court hearing was 3 days away, and I could feel it like a low hum under my skin. Not anxiety, anticipation. I'd been waiting for this moment. Olivia, meanwhile, had gone radio silent. No texts, no calls. Not even her usual dramatic attempts to play the victim. Greg told me that usually meant one of two things. Either they were preparing something ugly, or they were already falling apart. Turns out, it was both. That evening, I got a call from a blocked number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. "Jason." It was Tyler. I didn't say a word. "I know you hate me," he started. His voice was strained, clipped. "I just wanted to say, I didn't know how deep it went. She told me things that weren't true. She said you were abusive, controlling, that the house was hers by right because you stole everything from her." Still, I stayed quiet. "I was stupid," he admitted. "But I didn't sign up to be a part of some scam. She's not who I thought she was." Now that made me smile. "Congratulations," I finally said. "You figured it out before or after she told you she loved you while forwarding your emails to her divorce lawyer?" He was silent. Then he sighed. "Look, man, if you drop this, I'll walk away. From her. From the estate. From everything. She won't have anything left. Just don't drag this into the mud." "You already did," I said coldly. "You stood on my front porch and told me to move out of my father's house. That's not something I forget." "I was trying to protect her," he said quietly. "Turns out I should have been protecting myself." Click. I ended the call. I had no interest in pity or bargains. Not anymore. 3 days later, we stood in court. Olivia wore a black dress, as if grief or elegance could wash the blood off her hands. Tyler wasn't with her. Smart move. Maybe the smartest one he'd made. Greg presented everything. The prenup, the credit card charges, the hotel stays, the messages, and then the recordings. The judge listened in silence. Olivia squirmed in her seat, fingers digging into the sides of her chair like she could claw her way out of the mess she made. She tried to speak, said the marriage was emotionally abusive, claimed she was cornered into cheating, that I drove her into another man's arms. Greg, cool as ever, played the voicemail. Her begging to settle, her admitting it wasn't about money at first, her telling me she still cared, in the same voice she probably used to seduce him while stabbing me in the back. The judge didn't even blink. When the verdict came down, it was clean. She got nothing. No share of the estate. No property. No spousal support. Her face, pale, silent, was the final victory. I walked out of that courtroom with Greg beside me, the sun sharp and clean in the sky. "You good?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "More than good." But that wasn't the end. Because when I got home, there was a letter in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name, written in a rushed, familiar scrawl. Inside was a photo. Me and Olivia. From our wedding day. And written across the bottom in red ink, the words, "You'll regret this." I stared at it. No fear. No anger. Just a cold amusement. She was still playing games. But I wasn't the same man she used to toy with. Now, I was the storm. I put the photo down slowly, almost carefully, like it might explode. The handwriting was unmistakably hers, dramatic, rushed, trying too hard to look unbothered. But I knew her too well. That message wasn't strength. It was desperation. "You'll regret this." She wanted me to be scared, to second-guess, to lose sleep. But I'd already done my time in the trenches of betrayal. Regret was a luxury I couldn't afford and didn't need anymore. I poured myself a drink and sat by the fireplace, the same place where I first started this war, the same chair where I swore I'd take everything back. And I had. The estate was mine. My name was clean. Her lies were shredded in a courtroom. Her fake husband disappeared from the picture faster than he'd arrived. Olivia had burned every bridge thinking she'd find gold on the other side. But there was nothing there. Just ashes and silence. I stared at the flames and thought about all the years I gave her. The nights I stayed up comforting her over imagined slights. The way I defended her when my own father called her fake. He knew. I didn't listen. If I regret anything, it's that. But regret doesn't live here anymore. What I have now is clarity. And clarity is ruthless. She'll keep trying. That's who she is. She'll send letters. Maybe show up somewhere, crying, trying to twist the narrative. But the difference now is, no one's listening. Not the courts. Not the friends she used to manipulate. And definitely not me. I've moved on, but not in the way she hoped I would. Not broken, not bitter, not haunted. Just free. And if she ever steps into my world again, she won't find the man she used to fool. She'll find the man who smiled while her whole plan collapsed. The man who let her build the lie, brick by brick, only to rip the foundation out from underneath when she thought she'd already won. Let her keep that photo. Let her keep the fantasy that I'll somehow miss her, regret losing her. The truth? I didn't lose a wife. I got rid of a parasite. And now, with every step I take forward, I carry a single lesson burned into me so deep it'll never leave. Never give your loyalty to someone who treats it like leverage. The storm is over, and I walk through the wreckage like a man who finally remembers who the hell he is. Alive, clear-headed, unbreakable,